everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Delta Waterfowl's The Voice of the Duck Hunter podcast. On today's episode, I'm joined by Sean Weaver, all-around good guy and host of MeatEater's waterfowl hunting show, Duck Lore. Sean and I both attended Delta's inaugural National Duck Hunters Expo in Little Rock, Arkansas, where we sat down to talk Duck Lore Season 2 and take a glimpse at Sean's life before joining MeatEater. Stick around and enjoy the discussion. Sean Weaver from MeatEater, and you guys will probably recognize him from the show Duck Lore, right?
Yep. Yes, sir.
So I got that right?
Yep.
Well, that's cool. So when Sean and Ryan Callahan, when they were in North Dakota last fall, filming one of the episodes, they were joined by one of my coworkers, Matt Chenard, and they installed some hen houses, had some pretty cool hunts. That show turned out really well, by the way, Sean.
Yeah, I'm happy you liked it. That was one of the shining episodes of the season of Duck Lore last year. You know, of the first half of the season for sure, because you got all the fun, right? You got geese, ducks, conservation. You know, you got to learn about some of the people more behind the scenes in organizations like Delta, speaking about Matt. You got to see the elements actually influence the hunt. Went from really dry to one perfect rain that gave us like sheet water and speckle bellies. I don't know, it was just a fun episode.
Yeah, I think for me, I think the highlight of that particular hunt was that was an everyman's hunt. That was a normal hunt.
Yeah.
Normal problems, troubleshooting, innovation, and with a little perseverance, you guys had a lot of success.
Yeah, it was good hunting. I mean, it was good hunting. First day, and I would encourage people to go check out that hunt. It was Duck Lore Season 1, Episode 2, North Dakota. First day, we shoot a bunch of speckle bellies and some ducks, and you get to see Callahan's dog snort after getting bit by a rattlesnake her first hunt back. She did pretty good, considering she'd, almost lost her life.
That was her first hunt back?
That was her first hunt back after she got bit by a rattler. And then the next day, we ended up pass shooting cranes because wouldn't decoy. And that was one of those things that I think made it like an everyday dude's hunt. You're out there on the X. Okay, they're not decoying, but they're flying 10 yards over your blind. Traditional, I guess, waterfowl TV would have just not shown the hunt. But no, we shot a pile of cranes. We went home with a bunch of crane meat. I have one half breast left.
You have one left?
I have one half breast left. I'm saving it for a special day because crane's so good.
Yeah, no, I mentioned that when you guys were in Bismarck last fall. I mentioned that one of the things that I love about MeatEater, the shows, the brand, is, at least in the early goings of MeatEater, a lot of the shows didn't have the success of Harvest, but made an awesome show out of it anyway. Yeah. It's a trophy experience.
Yeah.
And they were able to bring along, they were able to bring along the viewer.
That's a good way of putting that. I like that.
Yeah. I always say I'm a trophy hunter, but I like the trophy experience. And those are easy to find if you have your mindset right.
Right. Yeah. That's a good point. A trophy experience can be getting on the mother of all shoveler spots.
Yeah.
Right? Like the Salt Lake.
Mm-hmm.
That's Duck Lore Season 2, Episode 1 is on the Salt Lake. Nope. You're not shooting mallards. Of course not. The birds there are eating brine shrimp and brine shrimp eggs, which Salt Lake, by the way, a whole nother conversation to have right now. But, we're shooting shovelers and green wings. And in that episode, we actually pluck a shoveler and pluck green wing and compare the meat, which was fun for me. I've eaten a ton of shoveler, but I've never plucked one. It was always one of those things that kind of got lumped in with the Canada goose, right? Slow cooked, turned into barbecue, fajitas, things like that. Never had done it just straight, salt, pepper, a little bit of garlic. Spoiler alert, if you haven't watched the episode, we really liked it. It's really freaking good. People love to talk smack on the shoveler as bad eating, but I'm telling you, you couldn't... There's a little difference between it and the teal, but it was more a dry meat difference.
Oh, really?
It wasn't... It was the spoonie was just a little bit drier, but it's still really good.
Yeah. I've only met one duck that I didn't like, It just so happened to be a hen bufflehead, and I don't know if it was that bird, if it was what I did, but every other duck that I've ever eaten, I really enjoy it. I like gamey meat. For sure.
Well, I think that's part of it. Is people need to change their taste buds to being used to some iron, and some livery taste. I mean, and to be fair, that wasn't teal and shovelers, but a hen bufflehead, I can definitely see where that would be the case.
Yeah, she wasn't that great, but
No.
I also, I guess I have not had the opportunity. I guess I did, but it was cooked in a real strange way. I think you could have cooked anything that way and it would taste good, but I think it was a scoter or an eider. I've heard those can be stronger, but I guess you are what you eat.
I had kind of a bummer happen this fall with that. Me and Steve went out duck lore episode 4, and we hunted on Lake Michigan, Lake Superior, shooting sea ducks, shooting longtails and white-winged scoter. And I was actually really pumped to try them because I've only heard bad. And I'll be totally honest here. The white-winged scoter's fat was salmon pink, which doesn't make me optimistic that it's going to be great. It's fishy colored meat. But so bring it home and then leave for another hunt. Come home, my freezer had gone out.
So you didn't get to eat it?
So I didn't ever get to even eat it. I lost a whole freezer of meat. It was a total bummer.
Freezer went bad, or the electricity went out?
Electricity went out.
Okay.
Yeah, and never flipped a breaker. And I was gone for, like...
2564. Good see us at the back booth. Thank you.
I was gone for, I'd say, 10 days. And so it was just, completely gone.
That was gone.
Yeah.
That is one of my greatest fears is, have a big freezer. I have antelope and mule deer and whitetails and ducks and geese and pheasants, and I would be so sad because that's literally what I eat off of for a year. Of course, I could go to the grocery store, but I don't want to.
I had, I'd say probably almost a quarter of beef in there, a ton of duck from the early season, a bunch of snow goose, some pork from my family's farm at home. It was filled, and I just lost it all. It was the biggest. I was devastated.
Yeah, I would be too. I bet you people are cringing right now thinking of that one, but...
Well, it's your worst nightmare.
It is. It is. Yeah, for sure. Hey, I had... It's a personal story. We were backing up to shovelers a little bit. So I was born and raised in west central Wisconsin. When we went hunting, you could guarantee your 2 wood ducks, and you could not guarantee any other duck. On occasion we'd shoot a teal, on occasion we'd shoot a mallard. So that was it. It was wood ducks, teal, mallards, that was it. And then when I moved west for the first time, I knew all the ducks. I was fascinated by all the duck species. But I remember seeing my first shovelers ever.
Yeah.
I spent probably an hour belly crawling up to those shovelers, flushed them, harvested, I think 3 of them. And I was so proud. Little did I know that they have such a bad reputation.
Which is so undeserved. I think the only reason, this is kind of mean, but I think the only reason the spoonbill has the reputation it does is 2 reasons. 1, that they decoy easily, right? And 2, because they got an ugly face.
They do. They do. It's
biologically, it's a cool face.
It's amazing.
It's amazing what they do.
That whole resource partitioning. Yeah, I mean, you spend a little time watching ducks in the wetland. You have the geese who dip, who can dabble very deep.
Yeah.
The mallard, not as deep. Teal feed in a different location. Shovelers are skimming across the top. It's amazing. Yep. And then the divers obviously are going to depths that a dabbler can't reach. And so, but it's that boot lip, mobile mallard, smiling mallard. I hear all those different
Hollywood.
things. Hollywood's
my favorite.
All those reputations and all those names. There's probably not a duck with more nicknames than a shoveler.
No, I don't think so.
Probably not. Not.
And if you could maybe try to say mallard has a bunch of nicknames, only because it's loved. It's the exact opposite reason.
Very
it has
beloved.
A bunch of names. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question for you about shovelers because it's something I see a ton in South Dakota, and I've tried to read up on it. I've heard it explained to me. I don't know if it's true. Why they do their spinning vortex, and I don't know if anyone's actually got like solid research on it. But you see shovelers getting these groups of 50, 100 birds on a lake, and they spin in a circle, all dabbling, super tight packed together. And I've yet to actually meet anyone, and maybe you don't know either, that like can explain what they're doing when they do that.
No, your search continues.
Okay.
I don't know either.
Oh, it's something else. I've got video footage of it on like Lake Poncet in South Dakota, Lake Thompson in South Dakota, where whole rafts of spoonbills accumulate and they do a rotational clockwise like spin as a group, almost like a vortex. Anyway, it's one of those.
Well,
weird,
you're gonna have to post
unanswered
that.
questions.
Yeah, just real quick there. So, Sean, I have to admit, you post some pretty cool stuff on your own Instagram page. So, I would encourage everybody. What's your
Sean Weaver DWC? SEAN is how you spell Sean for me. I don't know if that's the right way, but
I've always tried to figure out what is the DWC.
Oh, that was Dreamweaver Creative when I had my production company pre-MeatEater.
Okay.
Before I worked at MeatEater.
Gotcha.
And I just never took it out of the.
Why not?
Yeah.
So perhaps everyone look for a shoveler vortex on an upcoming post.
Yeah, I should post that. Yeah. It's interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, duck lore was fun filming. I was happy we got to incorporate Delta, and we won't say too much about next year's plans, but more Delta coming in the future.
I would say, Sean, I duck hunt too.
yeah, we do got to get you on an episode.
So yeah.
No, we do.
Not so subtle.
One episode I wanted to do this year, and this speaks to the pervasiveness across the West of this drought, but I wanted to do an episode with Dr. Chris Nicolai because he helped me so much with information for our MeatEater duck reports and all the articles I'm writing for the MeatEater website. I mean, he has been, as he is for you guys, a wealth of information.
Yeah.
He's bottomless pit of information. And I wanted to go do a hunt with him in Nevada on some of his old stomping grounds out there. But the drought is just so rough.
Yeah, well, Chris is Delta Waterfowl's waterfowl scientist, so he basically, I guess for the listener, you can check out his bio on our webpage, but Chris is a very accomplished research scientist, so he runs the research. When Delta designs a research project and says it's go time, it's Chris's. So works with the professors, selecting the students, the research design, the modeling, the statistics. But yeah, that dude, he has so much experience and knowledge. That's an academic for you, right?
Yeah.
And he uses that information so he doesn't lose it.
Yep.
But hey, so again, Sean, we're at the Delta Waterfowl's, I guess the Duck Hunters Expo here at the State House. It's called the State House Convention Center. Is that right?
Downtown Little Rock. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Beautiful. Humid as can be. I don't know how you felt when
it's 99% humidity out there. When I walked out this morning, I about died. I've been in Bozeman a lot lately, and it's 10% humidity this time of year there, and then get whacked in the face with.
Yeah, it's gross.
We had a morning rain today, but I gotta say, Joel, there was like more excitement, more hype, more energy around this expo than I personally remember having in the last 9 years of me working in the waterfowl space, and it's been fun. I mean, that's already cool. It's day one here.
Yeah,
and it and part of it maybe be a little bias of like being a post-COVID world of finally being back in the
everything is awesome, right? When you can see people,
feels good seeing friends and colleagues. After a couple years of not seeing some people. But, no, it's been a fun show.
That's awesome. That's great feedback. Yeah, it's funny. I told this story probably too many times. I started with Delta in March of 2001, and I think there were 8 employees at the time. We've outgrown office space 2 or 3 times since then. Now we're at 80 staff members.
That's
and
awesome.
and just exploding. And I think it's because
The big drawing for
have
the
to
night.
forgive us
Machine
here.
waders, custom made.
It's one of the drawbacks, Sean, of doing the
got
podcast at the expo. And that's the only one.
0, 6, 8, 8, 9.
So the listener can hear the, I think it's a raffle ticket or something like that.
Yeah.
I didn't buy one. But Delta has, it's hard for me to, I guess I feel like I have to pinch myself a little bit because that little old Delta that I started with,
Yeah.
it's like, holy cow, I can't believe it. This place is packed. And it's all waterfowl stuff.
Yeah.
So it's pretty amazing. I just love it. So there's a couple things that we'd like to talk about here. But Sean, I don't think on the last podcast that we recorded together, we talked about your upbringing and your introductions to waterfowling, but I don't think we covered your transition to MeatEater.
Yeah.
I remember seeing you on, as a guide, right?
Yep.
I saw
Yep.
you on one of the Netflix episodes of
Yep.
MeatEater.
Mm-hmm.
How did that come to be for you?
Yeah, so, in college, so I moved from Iowa. I grew up in Iowa and then moved to South Dakota State for college, which seems to be the way a lot of waterfowl-loving college kids go, especially people actually that end up being like Delta employees and Delta,
Yeah.
Delta interns, all that. Because, we were talking about off the podcast earlier, Dan Morrison, who's a college roommate of mine, worked for Delta, interned for Delta
Yep.
for a while. There's a lot of Dans out there that go to
Yeah.
South Dakota State because they love ducks, and like that's a first step for them into the organization of Delta Waterfowl. But so I moved to South Dakota State because of the duck hunting and, some of the, I guess a little bit college, like some of the majors there. But while I was there, I became a hunting guide.
Oh, wow.
My sophomore year of college.
Oh, during college.
Yep. And then actually started making videos of our hunts. Realized I was making videos that were resonating with people. People liked the content I was doing. And decided going into my senior year of college that I was going to start a business, hiring myself out for video production. Ended up, by the time I graduated college, I quit guiding and went into video production full-time. And then a year later, I hired Max Barta, who is the son of a former Delta employee.
Yeah. Hello, Mitch, in case you're listening.
Hired Max Barta from Bismarck, North Dakota. He was my first employee. And from there, it was Katie bar the door. We got hired to do all kinds of outdoor industry work. A lot of waterfowl-related stuff. We also worked for Cabela's, Bass Pro Shop, a bunch of other brands. Lucky Duck, Lucky Duck, Dakota Decoy,
Okay.
both brands here. And, that just escalated eventually into, on one of those photo shoots I was hired for, I met Steve.
Okay.
I was doing a photo shoot for Benchmade Knives with Steve through Cabela's. And that was how him and I became connected.
Okay.
And then, he called me and said, hey, we want to start doing waterfowl content. You want to help us out? And
So that's the Netflix, the MeatEater show?
yeah.
Pre-Duck
So, that was kind of their test, right? Of
Okay.
like,
Is this guy any good?
yeah,
right.
Yep. And then after that, they said, it kind of actually first started as like, do you want to start doing some stuff for us? And frankly, I was just so tied up with my own business. It was kind of one of those things. It's like, it's all or nothing for me, unfortunately. I either have to go all in with you guys or I got to keep with what I'm doing because I was
Right.
busier than sin. So here I am working for MeatEater doing duck hunting content and products. We have our first Lite booth here with our new camo, and which is probably something else we should talk about.
Yeah, that's what I figured. That's one of the wanderings that we should go through. But that, I think, if people haven't watched that MeatEater show that we were just talking about, that your first go at it with MeatEater, that was, and those are some amazing hunts.
Yeah, it was I think it's just called South Dakota Ducks, but it's in MeatEater Season 9, if y'all are looking for one of the few MeatEater duck hunts out there. We were hunting flooded corn, and that was when we had the opposite problem, right, back then.
An insane amount of water.
We had an insane amount of water in the Dakotas that year. Flooded corn, beans, wheat, everywhere, from Bismarck down to Brookings, especially the northeast corner of South Dakota. And yeah, we're hunting flooded corn. And naturally flooded corn, not managed flooded corn.
Right. Yeah, I would say, I can still say this, in my 20-some years in North Dakota, I have never seen intentionally flooded corn.
No, neither have I.
But we've experienced prairie boys now, we can say that. I'm from Wisconsin, you're from Iowa, you said?
Yep.
I didn't know that. Okay. But yeah, I think we've been transplants long enough. But yeah, of course we get those extraordinarily wet years.
Yep.
That makes a farmer pretty upset because they can't get their crop off. But it makes us happy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it makes the ducks happy at the very least. You know, you get these spots where you get a late summer thunderstorm that drops 7 inches of rain in one spot, and all of a sudden, boom, just an insane amount of water on that corn and beans.
Yeah. Can you imagine? We should touch base a little bit about, I guess, where we live in the breeding grounds.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the continent is wondering how things are going, particularly the southern duck hunters. I'm sure a lot of the duck hunters here in Arkansas are like, how's it going in the prairies? But we had a ridiculous drought last year. It was as dry as I've ever seen it.
Yeah.
Usually the dry cycle lasts for a few years.
Yeah.
For us in North Dakota, it lasted 1 year.
Yeah, 1.5 years for you
Was
guys.
it? Oh,
yeah.
And we had tremendous amount of snow and consistent rains all spring. And North Dakota's in great shape, but I think you and I talked on the phone last week, and you said South Dakota wasn't as
No, it's not
glowing?
as good. I mean, northern South Dakota's sitting pretty. Like Webster and the Catota Prairie, Sisseton, all that country is sitting nice and wet. Down towards Brookings and the southern end of the Coteau, and then like west towards Huron, not near as good. It's pretty dry.
Okay.
We went through we did, like, if we hadn't got those perfectly well-timed spring rains, it would have been super dry. We did get the same shot, that nice spring few storms there that dumped a bunch of water and snow, but we didn't get it to stick as long and keep coming through as long as, up towards you guys.
Yeah,
but North
been
Dakota
shot.
is so good this year.
Yeah, just shot after shot. And I would say it's not annoying. A lot of times when you get a wet cycle, you can't go outside.
Yeah.
People start experiencing, house damage, their foundation leaks or something, but it's actually been just beautifully timed rains, except for that giant, I won't cuss, the giant darn hailstorm that came through Bismarck last week. Holy cow, golf ball size, hail, wrecking everything, but that's part of life on the prairies, that's for sure.
Yeah, there was that one that they did classify as a derecho that they said started in Livingston, Montana, and ran all the way to almost Albert Lee, Minnesota.
Wow.
Like, that's a storm, man. And it, dropping hail and crazy wind the whole way.
Yeah, Williston, North Dakota, which for those that are, follow the oil boom of North Dakota, Williston is in the far northwest corner, pretty darn close to Montana. They picked up baseball size hail. I think you were mentioning that too, but I saw some photos. That'll knock you down.
Yeah, that'll knock some crops down. I would love to know what that does to ducks and how ducks avoid that out on the grassland, and what it does mortality wise. Yeah,
I've never heard of duck mortality as a result of that. I would imagine it happens, though.
There's got to be some, but they probably are pretty good at tucking their head under that. I mean, they've lived on the grassland for thousands and thousands of years. They've experienced hail.
And there's thousands of them, right? So I guess, you lose a handful. We were looking at a pie chart of all of the factors that determine whether a mallard population grows, declines, or stays the same. And it's over 80% of what affects a mallard's annual population happens on breeding season events. You take hunting, you take hail, you take disease. Only 9% of a mallard's annual population is determined by those factors. Hunting,
that's wild.
Disease, anything. So it's tiny. Hunting, regulated hunting, is a wonderful thing. Don't feel bad. But yeah, it's all about hatching
Right.
and hen survival and duckling survival.
Which down here in the Delta of Arkansas, I don't think quite always hits home for everybody, because they're disconnected from the prairie. They don't, down here, they don't necessarily see, they realize the ducks come from up north, but they don't see every year the fluctuations of habitat,
Right.
farming practices, wetlands, predators, grassland available, CRP. They don't see all those factors come tie into
Right.
what ends up being their migration.
Yeah, and we live it. And
Right.
And I don't know, I think you can tell the story, but what we try to do is we try to bring people to the prairies. We'll organize some
Yeah.
tours on occasion.
All right.
And it's, oh, here comes another raffle ticket.
4102. Come see us at the front desk.
That lucky duck.
Yep, so if you just listen to this and had that winning ticket, it's too late. No, that's all right. So let's switch gears to that. I like you brought that up. So you're here in the First Lite booth,
Yeah.
repping, I guess, the new line
new-
of camouflage
Yep.
and apparel.
Yep. First Lite's new waterfowl apparel and new camo, Typha camo, which is genus of cattail, and appropriately named. It's a tan camo. Looks great in wheat, corn, cattails. It's a marsh camo. It's not a timber camo, but one of the coolest things and a huge impetus for why we are here with our new camo is First Lite and Delta Waterfowl's Camo for Conservation initiative, which is a portion of our Typha sales going to Delta Waterfowl, which I'm stoked about, as you knew, because, before MeatEater, I was a lover and supporter of Delta, a member of Delta, and now it's awesome for me to get to, through my job, support something I already love.
We can't appreciate it enough. And, you and I talk on occasion, text more frequently, I think, because that's I guess texting is wonderful, but it's also kind of sad in the same way.
Yeah.
So it's nice to be able to sit down here and record this in person. But yeah, we really appreciate it, and I know you beat that drum for Delta, and we appreciate it. We call ourselves the Duck Hunters Organization. I think we live that.
Yeah. Oh,
And-
of course.
And so really appreciate the support. And so, I love that camo. I've always lived, I guess when I grew up in Wisconsin, we hunted quite a bit of timber, not the green tree timber, but it was,
Wooded
woods.
edges.
Yeah, or woods flooded by
Beaver dam.
beaver.
Yeah.
Yep. But it always has been kind of a frustration of mine, hunting mostly in cattails, sometimes in bulrush, sometimes in fields, is just the camouflages. I understand that the dark colors fit in those really heavily wooded, timbered locations, but I've always wanted something that was a little bit lighter, and I like that.
Yeah, and I think it's good to have both.
Yeah.
I really do. I think it's good to have both. When you're in a marsh, the last thing you want to do is look like a dark blob, and vice versa. When you're in something dark, the last thing you want to do is look like a lantern.
Right.
So,
yeah, exactly.
I think having both is good. I think that goes to a larger point of talking about supporting Delta through the Camo for Conservation initiative. I think it hopefully the articles I'm writing for the MeatEater site, duck lore, all these different things we're trying to do and trying to bring awareness to Delta. I hope they can be even larger than our relationship with Delta. I hope they can be a thing that makes folk more aware of science, research, conservation, that leads to them having a Delta membership every year, having a extra duck stamp they buy every year, donating every year, coming to an event like this every year.
4102. 4102.
That's Will Beatty, coworker of mine. I'm gonna give him a piece of my mind.
No, it's
he's
great.
doing his job. I'm
Yeah.
just kidding.
But it's great, or I hope what it can do is help people realize, what the guys post-market hunting era realized as they lost almost all their ducks is like we have to be diligent and actively participating in conservation, whether it's through physical labor or our checkbooks, to have more ducks and have more primo habitat and more hunting success. And I think sometimes hunting can be this transactional thing where you show up in a rice field or the timber or a cornfield and you shoot your ducks and go home, not realizing all the beautiful habitat and kind of luck of the draw that went to that mallard ending up in your lap in Arkansas. And like hopefully even just a simple thing like camo for conservation can be like, oh, there's a way for me to buy something I like, buy some hunting gear and support actual duck production and what I love. And I hope that like simple connection of idea, right? 1 + 1 there leads to, oh, I can also go buy the gear I love at the Duck Hunters Expo.
Right.
And at the same time, like financially support the ducks I will shoot this fall.
Yeah. No, Sean, I'd have to say, I read your articles. I specifically tune into the MeatEater episode that you talk on once a month.
Yep, once a month. Yeah, we do a Sean's Duck Report.
Yeah, I know. We've chatted a little bit, about the subject, and I love collaborating with you on those types of things. And so I think you're a great ambassador for waterfowl hunting, waterfowl conservation. And I tell you what, what you said there about educating, our constituent, and maybe you didn't say this, but maybe turning them into an activist of some sort. And I really think the future of hunting, as much as I hate to say it, it's uncertain. And the time to take hunting for granted was 30, 40 years ago.
Right.
I mean, especially as waterfowl hunters, we've lost, since the 1970s, lost about half of our waterfowl hunting population on this continent.
Yep.
And the other thing that scares me is hunters in general are getting old.
Yep.
And there's this massive massive age class of hunters that are in their late 50s to mid 60s. They have about 5 to 10 years of hunting left in them. Not that they're going to die. It's just studies show and statistics show that when you hit about 65 to 70 years of age,
your hips go bad. It gets hard to hoof
you
it
quit
through
buying a
mud.
license. You quit buying a license. And the other thing is, hunters. So if you take hunters, make up only about 4 to 5% of the U.S. population. So as the U.S. population continues to grow, we become a smaller and smaller subgroup, and our voice is diminishing.
Yeah.
And so we need to get out there. And so anything that you can do, everything that you are doing, I think that's awesome.
Yep.
We appreciate it. Hey, let's go back a little bit. I am a First Light guy. I've worn First Light for quite a long time. I like the cipher pattern. That's the... Yeah. It's because, again, it's very similar to where I live, where I hunt. I like that. And so, a lot of the big game, I guess, clothing have purpose built into them. Yeah. The waterfowl line, is that I haven't had the opportunity yet to swing over to your booth and really get into those pieces. Do they have waterfowl-specific purposes as well?
Yeah, so we have a mix of both. Some of the stuff we had for big game makes sense for waterfowl, meaning our wool stuff mainly.
Right.
Our base layers, our merino.
Okay.
That stuff is now, that's been long-standing First Light products that are part of our big game and whitetail lineups that are now offered in the new Typha camo.
Makes sense.
Which I would encourage people to buy it in Typha because, again, a portion of that goes to Delta Waterfowl. But then, in addition to that, this year we have 5 new dedicated waterfowl designed products. We have the Refuge Collection, which is a insulated parka, an insulated bib, and a muff. And those products are, that is late season. Where are you from? Bismarck, North Dakota.
Right.
Very cold late season product. And those bibs will spoil you rotten. They are so warm. And then we have the Landing Zone jacket, which is a uninsulated waterproof shell jacket. Oh, and the Refuge lineup is waterproof stuff. But the landing zone jacket is a uninsulated, shell jacket. And then we have the ground control pack, which is it's our take on a blind bag. It's not a blind bag. It's a backpack that also you can kind of lay on its side and open up camera bag style.
Nice.
Which is pretty sweet. So yeah, we have a mix of both. Right?
Okay. And then I think you said something like magnetic closures on some of the pockets or things like that.
Yeah, we've got if you have a pacemaker, I'm sorry. Don't buy it.
Don't get it. Oh, no.
But we have magnetic sealing pockets on them, which are waterproof because they're envelope style. So that's
nice.
cool.
Yeah, that's what I like. I've seen products. I won't list any, but I've seen products that are sold to duck hunters. And when I put it on, I say, this person didn't duck hunt.
Yeah.
Because it has intricate closures, hard to do things. Yeah. And so, when it's cold, really cold, near freezing or freezing, and you have to get into your pockets, the last thing you want to do is have to, take your gloves off or have wet, cold hands. Mm-hmm. So, that sounds really good. I'm going to have to go swing over and check that out. So everybody take a peek at that. Now, you do have some Tangle-Free partnered. Yeah,
Tangle-Free's partnered with us on licensing the camo, right, and putting the camo on their products, which is sweet.
Okay.
So panel blinds, gun straps, all that good stuff.
Okay. And can people purchase those collaborative
products? Yeah. If you go to firstlite.com, or that's on Tangle-Free too. But go to firstlite.com. It's all available there. Tangle-Free stuff included.
Perfect.
So
I did see those Grizzly Mitts. Is that
those are sweet. That's one of those products. If you run a boat when it's cold, must have, because it is nice for running a boat.
Yeah. See, I have a pair for big game hunting, and I like the suede on the back for when my nose is running. It's
that's a good point.
Less chafing on that one. That's pretty good.
Yep.
So I guess let's kind of move into maybe the final part of this conversation. I think we could BS for the rest of the night.
Absolutely.
But we got to save it for another recording.
Yep.
Let's go back to duck lore. So I know last year was the first season.
Yeah, so what we did is we filmed, the 21 to 22 season, and we broke up the release of that. We filmed 12 locations. We broke it up into 2 seasons release. We released season 1 in February on the MeatEater YouTube channel, and then now we're releasing season 2 on the MeatEater YouTube channel right now. Episode 1 of season 2 was Salt Lake, and then we went to Wyoming, Missouri, New Mexico, Arkansas, and South Dakota for snow geese. And so very diverse amount of places, range of places, location-wise. Salt Lake's always a unique, cool place. You and I should probably just do a whole conversation about that some other time, about the Salt Lake. But, Wyoming was spoiler alert, the best hunting I've ever seen. It was one of those hunts where you're giggly and you have to acknowledge on camera, I'm giggly because this doesn't happen.
Really?
It's that good.
What were the species there?
So we hunted the episode only shows 2 days of hunting, but it was 4 days. We killed our limits of geese every single day. And then we're like, okay, well, we should go hunt ducks, change it up,
Just because,
and
this is too much of a good thing.
And then went the last day and, shoot limits of ducks, and it was just too perfect.
That's awesome. So the question there, Sean, is was there any, episode 1 to 12, was there any rhyme or reason to how you split them up? Chronologically, or did you pick and choose? How'd you choose how to separate those 12 hunts into 2 seasons?
We just did them chronologically.
So they are. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's a sequence. And so, so the 6 were already out there. You're releasing them one at a time, starting now?
Yeah. Yep. Every Tuesday they're releasing, which, by the time you listen to this, there's probably been 3 out by now. They're on the MeatEater YouTube channel. They're, anywhere from 20 to 25 minutes long, and they've got a mix of education in there, and they're real. Yep. They're genuinely what you experience as a waterfowler. And that's the one thing I won't sacrifice on that show. Sometimes I make myself look like an idiot. On the Wyoming episode, I miss the mother of all shot calls, like bad. So bad, Joel. It was, Canada geese just sprinkling across the spread, dropping out of the flock. And I'm kind of expecting the flock to turn in and finish hooked towards us. And they hook away. I just kind of get flustered for a second thinking it's going to not do that.
Right.
And don't call the shot with 12 geese sitting across the spread. Just bad shot call. Just bad. But, call it out, show it. That's something
real.
Everybody's done, man. It's everybody. If you haven't messed up a shot call, you're just not calling the shot enough.
No. I think it happens regularly for most people. Just because, the more you've been at it, you'd think you could be able to predict, what's going to happen better. But, you get a flock of whatever approaching your spread, and you think, okay, one more time.
Yeah.
You probably could have harvested birds right then and there, but you're like, one more time. And then they change their mind and do something else.
Yep, totally.
So I got to ask you, Sean. So, I've done, with my time at Delta, I've taken people hunting, just friendly hunts, people that support Delta. But I have to admit, I always feel pressure to the point where it sucks a little bit of the fun out of it. Mm-hmm. Are you enjoying this whole?
Yeah, for me.
The answer is yes.
Yes,
but
for sure. For me, because I've worked in film for a while now and worked in production, there's certainly a little bit of it that can suck the fun out of it. But more than that, for me, it's an added challenge. We're not just hunting, we're also telling a story. And the added challenge of portraying a story well, right? So I write all my own voiceover.
Okay.
And, writing the story of that hunt, really trying to portray what we went through, what we felt, what we experienced, and hopefully getting the viewer to experience that same thing through a camera lens rather than being there is a challenge. It's hard to do, but it's fun for me to try to accomplish that challenge. So I do enjoy it. There's days where, you want to curse cameras and curse the whole process and say screw it.
Hard.
It can be very hard.
You get finicky ducks or, spooky ducks and have all those cameras and all that going on. But then there's days where you literally could stand in the spread, wave your arms, and they're still coming in.
Right. And I think both of those are experiences that waterfowlers all have every season of those spooky ducks and those great ducks. And I just want to be able to capture that and show it for what it is. Show it for what the everyday duck hunter experiences. Because that's what I am. I'm just Sean out hunting ducks.
That's right.
Really what it is.
So when you had your own company, you were the cameraman.
Yeah.
Now you're not.
Correct.
So what is it? Just curious.
Yeah.
What is it that you enjoy most? Is it the storytelling now?
For sure.
That's your.
Yeah, I would say. Don't get me wrong. I love shooting ducks. Even when I had my own company, I spent a ton of time shooting my own ducks every year. It wasn't just filming other people, but for sure, my favorite thing, and you see that in the podcast segments I do in the articles too. I love to tell stories because I think, you look at some of the history of waterfowl hunting. I think one of the coolest things that we can lay claim to in waterfowling is the legends and the stories, right? You go read Nash Buckingham, and it gives you the same chill down your spine in his writings now as it would have 100 years ago.
Yeah.
And so if I do my job right, I can tell stories that for years and years to come, guys will enjoy watching, listening, reading, and be like, oh, that, gets me pumped for season, gets me pumped for duck hunting.
So I figured out what a good episode for us to do. Mm-hmm. I own 2 side-by-side muzzleloader shotguns.
Okay.
So it's one of my favorite ways to hunt ducks.
That would be cool.
It's a blast. I have one
that
is probably 100 years old, and I still hunt with it. And then I have a modern-day replica with choke tubes and chrome line barrels. That's a lot of fun. But no, that's great. Well, I'm glad. I'm glad this is working out for you, Sean. Appreciate the time. Appreciate you saying good things about Delta.
Yeah,
You know?
no, I'm pumped to work with you guys. Pumped to, in any way, even if it's just a membership every year, But I
Hey.
love getting to be part of this. It's awesome.
No, that's great. So just make sure that I want to flag a few things. So again, First Lite, the brand new line,
Yep.
Typha Camo.
Yep.
Head to firstlite.com. I believe it's front and center right now, isn't it?
Yep.
On the website.
Yep.
Check it out. I understand that almost all of the products are available, right?
Yeah. Yeah, by the time you're listening to this, probably all of it will be available, but there's like a couple products that are held back right now, truthfully, shipping
Yep.
issues. But almost all of it's available right
Okay.
now.
And then a couple of the other ways. Let's see. Again, just a refresher. You're a monthly participant on the MeatEater podcast.
Yep.
Sean's Duck Minute.
Sean's Duck Report.
Duck
Yep.
Report.
Yep.
It's longer than a minute.
Yeah.
Don't want to cheat
Because
that.
I like to talk.
Yeah. So is that? I suppose it's not a regular. Every so many.
Yeah, the best way to see all that, honestly, is if you go to themeateater.com. We have a waterfowl category, and there you can scroll through and see absolutely everything from articles to how-to videos, duck lore episodes, the new Typha gear, stuff I've done with Delta. You can see Matt Chenard from Delta's How to Make a Hen House video there. And there's a segment under that waterfowl category on that page where it's all the waterfowl-related MeatEater podcast episodes.
Okay.
So every episode is collected there, which
Awesome.
is sweet.
See, that's great. So then, but if someone went to YouTube, type in Duck Lore.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. YouTube, duck lore, and also same deal. It's on that waterfowl category page on the MeatEater.com. Duck lore's there as well. You can pretty much live there and see everything you'd ever want.
Okay. And then Instagram, Sean Weaver, DM,
DWC.
DWC.
Yes, sir.
Got it. Okay.
Yep.
Well, if you can't find Sean, I tried to help.
It's easy enough.
Yeah.
Should be.
Give it a try, folks.
Yep.
Yeah, Sean's a good guy, good ambassador. Keep it up.
Thanks, Joel. Thanks
So,
for
yeah.
having me. I'm so pumped to be here. This has been a fun event so far, and
That's
it's only
awesome.
day one.
It is. So, all right, Sean. Well, we'll stay in touch. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. If you have any questions, podcast@deltawaterfowl.org. MeatEater.
MeatEater.com. TheMeatEater.com.
Yep.
Well, good.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thanks, Joel.